You've probably spent a few evenings scrolling through forums, watching a handful of YouTube cutists, and wondering whether a plasma cutter is really the set-and-forget tool you need for small shop projects. The truth is, most of the time the gear that looks good on paper ends up being a hassle when you actually have to pull the trigger, swap tips, and try to keep the fumes from choking your workshop. If you're looking for something that feels reliable day after day, that doesn't demand a PhD in electrical engineering to operate, and that actually saves you time and money instead of just adding another line to your budget, keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first started thinking about a plasma cutter for a home workshop, my biggest hesitation was the classic, will it cut what I need without constantly adjusting settings? I've tried a couple of lower-priced units that promised 40 amps of power but left me with a lot of uneven cuts, especially on thinner sheet metal. That's the real risk buying a machine that looks like it can handle 1mm steel, only to discover it's fighting the material and burning through the tip far faster than expected. The Cut 50D/Cut 50DS from Plasma lands in that sweet spot where the advertised 40A output meets a user-friendly design, but the question is whether the balance of precision, versatility, and everyday practicality actually works for the kind of work you'll be doing. Let's start with what the Cut 50D really brings to the table. The machine is built around a high-frequency, non-contact arc start. In plain language, that means you don't have to touch a starter electrode to the workpiece to ignite the plasma, just turn the key and the arc pops up on its own. I tried this on a Saturday morning, powering the unit from a standard 220V outlet, and within a couple of seconds the torch was ready. No fiddling with pilot arcs, no sparking that could set off nearby electronics. For a hobbyist who's more comfortable with a drill than with a welding helmet, that instant readiness is a real time saver. Precision is another claim that gets tossed around a lot with plasma cutters. The Cut 50 series advertises high precision, but does that translate into clean, repeatable cuts? I set up a test using 3mm mild steel plate thick enough to be a challenge for many entry-level cutters but still manageable. The first cut was a smooth line, about 0.2mm wide, with minimal dross on the underside. When I repeated the cut a few minutes later, the deviation was barely perceptible, under 0.5mm across a 30cm run. That level of consistency is impressive for a machine that sits in the $300 range, and it means you can actually trust the cutter for repeated production of brackets or small panels without needing to sand every edge afterward. Versatility is where the Cut 50 DS model diverges a bit. The DS version adds a built-in dual-speed controller, letting you dial the amperage between 25A and 40A without swapping external regulators. In practice, that means you can slice thin sheet metal, think 1mm stainless steel for decorative work by dialing down to 25A, and then crank up to 40A for thicker steel or aluminum. I found the transition fairly smooth. The torch maintained a stable arc throughout the adjustment, which is a comforting sign that the internal power regulation isn't just a marketing gimmick. Now, who should actually consider buying the Cut 50D or Cut 50DS? If you're a small shop owner, a DIY enthusiast, or a maker who frequently works with sheet metal making things like custom brackets, lightweight enclosures, or even artistic metal sculptures, this unit fits nicely. The price point is low enough that you won't feel a huge sting on your budget, yet the performance is solid enough that you won't need to replace it after a handful of projects. You'll also get the most value if you already have a decent air compressor, because the cutter's airflow demands sit around 3.5 CFM at 70 psi. Plug it into a shop-grade compressor, and you'll have a reliable setup for both occasional hobby work and a lightweight production run. On the flip side, there are scenarios where the Cut 50 series will feel underpowered. If you're planning to cut thick plates, say 10mm or more, you need to handle large volumes of material where speed is critical, you'll likely hit the limits of the 40A output. The torch will still cut, but you'll notice a slowdown, and the consumable tip will wear out faster because it's operating at the edge of its capacity. In addition, the unit doesn't come with an integrated air filtration system. For anyone who works in a confined space or without a proper exhaust fan, the plasma gases and fine metal particles can become a nuisance after a few cuts. You'll need to invest in a hood or a separate filtration solution, which adds to the total cost. Speaking of consumables, the Cut 50 series uses standard copper tips and ceramic nozzles that you can buy separately. The good news is that these are readily available from multiple vendors, so you won't be